absolutely, hands-free driving ban has not been able to get out of the Iowa House for a while. I don't understand why Democrats stand ready to support this. It's safer for drivers, safer for workers, and safer for people who are on the roads walking or riding their bikes. It is a no-brainer, and the reason it's not getting out of the Iowa House is because Republicans can't agree on what we need to do, and Democrats are ready to help.
The Senate passed it last time, 97-3. I imagine the Senate will pass it again, and I would also add that it will save lives, and it's been a law enforcement priority for some time.
Yeah, I think what we saw were a lot of things that we can like in theory. Our concern continues to be what's the actual practical application of it, right? You can say that you want a lot of things for a headline. What's it look like when you actually want to implement it? Additionally, a lot of these ideas are great for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. How are we going to help Iowans who are feeling the crunch of the economy right now? And we heard things like childcare access. Where are we talking about childcare affordability? We haven't heard a thing. Didn't hear a word about housing. Didn't hear much about workforce. A few years ago, those were huge issues. Are they solved? Nope. So we need to see, are they just not concerns anymore, or are we just looking for headlines? Again, as always, Democrats stand ready to have these conversations, ready to pass good policy for Iowans. The devil's in the details, and we want to make sure that a broad idea translates into real policy that's going to help the most Iowans.
Pairing preschool with childcare is a good idea. It's been implemented in a number of counties in the state, both through a statewide program and in some places like my own county through homegrown programs. It helps parents who cannot manage to pick up a child after 3 hours of preschool. We all know that preschool is a really essential building block for kids who are headed into K through 12. What I didn't hear was how we're going to expand preschool for the kids who aren't currently in preschool.
How do Democrats feel about the proposal to cut the unemployment tax?
Yeah, I don't think that we need to be talking about giving corporations another tax cut right now. What we need to do is look at how we can help the thousands of Iowans who've been laid off in the past year from plants across the state, and those jobs are going to big corporations that are not going to reinvest that money in the workforce. We also know that last time there was a huge tax cut, corporations got $300 million and 500,000 Iowans got nothing. So we need to be talking about, again, how we're going to make these kitchen table issues. How does an Iowan who's looking to figure out how her budget is going to work this month, what benefit will she see? She's not going to like to note that the governor proposed cutting taxes for corporations.
It seems like every other day you pick up a newspaper or listen to the news and you hear about another layoff. I want to know how this is going to help those people. Is the money going to be there for them? How are they going to get back on their feet? Because essentially Iowans just want to provide for their families. They want to feed their families. And we need to ensure that the money is there, that the system is there, and that we roll back some of the bureaucratic hurdles that were put into the unemployment system after the last change.
Also go straight to the Trump administration for a waiver of Medicaid work requirements, so that would bypass the legislature. What do you think of that?
I think that Iowans want to work. Iowans who want to put food on the table are going to be working. And if the governor is going to request a waiver from the next administration, we need to ensure that those who are caregivers, those who have a disability, those who for any reason cannot work still keep their health care.
One thing that I saw a lot of, or heard a lot of from the governor, is a lot of one-size-fits-all approaches, right? The same thing will apply to every Iowan. Every Iowan isn't the same. Every Iowa community isn't the same. People who are on Medicaid have many reasons for working or not, right? We need to be looking at the circumstances that are putting Iowans in positions to need Medicaid. Affordable housing, lack of childcare, right? Maybe there are plenty of families who want to work, but childcare is the cost of a mortgage right now. How are we addressing those problems? We aren't. We're just looking to slash and burn and cut, and there are people who are wanting to work and have barriers that the governor's doing nothing to address.
The governor laid out her cell phone policy tonight, saying that at minimum there would be no electronic devices during instructional time. Just reaction to that being the specifics of the proposal?
Yeah, I think that, again, we can get behind students being less distracted in the classroom, and I think as long as we're allowing local districts to make those decisions that's best for their school. She gave 2 different schools and how they're handling it. That's how it's supposed to work, right? People know how their own communities work. So we can, I think, agree that students should be focused in the classroom. I like the idea of having some exceptions for emergencies, things like that. We just need to be realistic about this and make sure that teachers aren't just having one more thing to do. But there was nothing in what she proposed today that made me less likely to support a cell phone ban than when the evening started.
I have nothing to add.
There you go.
Thoughts about some of the healthcare proposals, creating new residencies, Medicaid reimbursement for midwives, doula coverage under Medicaid?
We've been supporting increased Medicaid reimbursement and Medicaid reimbursement for doulas and midwives for some time now. We've urged increased reimbursement rates for things like complicated pregnancies. The fact is that many of the rural labor and delivery rooms close because they simply cannot cover their costs with current reimbursement rates. So we want to expand or increase reimbursement rates. I'm fine with that. I'm sure the Senate Democrats will be fine with that. We need to look at other areas as well, like children's dental care and dental care in general. That's also part of health care. This is not news to us. And I would point out that if we're looking at trying to expand medical care, if we're looking at trying to get more doctors into rural areas, that's something that some of the policies that the Reynolds administration has been putting forward for the last few years have been essentially a barrier. When you have an extreme abortion ban, it's not going to bring a lot of OBGYNs to the state.
Good. She did a great job.
Does the University of Iowa have room to handle all those residency slots if there's 100 postings? They wouldn't all go there, but
I haven't had a chance to talk to them. As I've said to some other folks, I would imagine that would also entail hiring new staff and having more programs, expanding programs. And I don't know where the money's going to come from for that.
What do you think of the proposal on cancer research?
Yeah. I think, of course, it's a great start. We've been ringing the alarm bells about cancer rates in the state of Iowa for a long time. We think it's right to do a study. $1 million is a nice start. When it comes to residencies, when it comes to this cancer research, those are all nice long-term plans, but people are being diagnosed today. People are having a baby in the next week. What are we doing to help them right now? So these are nice plans for down the road that are going to solve some problems, but meanwhile, we have people who are in crisis. We have a cancer crisis that is not getting any better. It seems to me that we need to be acting more urgently than just a study. A study is a great place to start. I'm thrilled to hear that there's some allocation going there, but we want to make sure that we're actually also taking action, because this problem isn't going to get better just by studying it. We have to start taking action.
I agree that $1 million is a good start. There are a variety of different research areas that need to be pursued. But I guess my concern, because the governor talked about alcohol as one of the possible precursors of cancer, my concern is that we not limit it, that we really go wherever the research takes us so that we can get to the root problems and help our neighbors.
Nuclear power, I know you haven't had time to caucus on it yet, but initial thoughts?
Well, we'd like to welcome the governor to the cause of lower energy prices. We've been fighting for that for a long time, and we're absolutely willing to listen to the idea of nuclear. As the governor mentioned, there's a long runway there, and energy bills come every month. I don't know about yours, but mine's been coming every month, and costs are going up on energy. So what are we going to do to fix those bills right now, to fix those energy bills right now? And again, certainly a good idea for long term, but what are we doing to fix those energy prices right now? The companies that she's talking about and the AI costs and things like that, we're paying for them right now, and we want to make sure that we're addressing this issue while also looking at other alternatives.
Iowa has long been a leader in renewable energy. I think we ought to continue down that road, and we need to make sure that we have a strong and stable and reliable grid.
What's your reaction to the governor's proposal on Iowa Doge? Looking at efficiencies in local government and the federal government.
As Leader Weiner said before, Iowans want efficient government, of course. They also look to their government for the services that they provide, and so we want to make sure we're finding that balance always. I don't love the idea of just taking things that the Trump administration's doing and doing them here in Iowa, and I have a little concern that that's what the governor's going to do. But certainly we want to make sure that, again, we're looking at Iowa policy, we're looking at Iowa's government, and not just taking the Trump administration and trumpeting it here in Iowa. Iowa doesn't need more Donald Trump from Kim Reynolds, and It's fine. I guess I don't know.
We also have to really make sure that it doesn't put more unfunded mandates on local governments because they already have substantial burdens.
I was going to ask about that because the only time that the governor mentioned property taxes was in reference to this DOJ, state level DOJ. Do you have thoughts on, how this could be impacting the property tax legislation?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see that the governor and legislative leaders aren't talking about the same priorities. I mean, I don't know if Republicans just aren't talking to each other or how this is exactly working, but it does appear to me that the governor's letting the legislature lead on property taxes, and what I hear from her is they want to go in and look at what local governments are doing too. That would be a surprise to the people who elect their city council people and their mayors, who they ask them to take care of the local budgets. So again, not every good idea comes from Des Moines, and a lot of these local communities are doing really well with this kind of work and providing services to their taxpayers. And so I think this needs to be a partnership and not a top-down approach. And the only thing I've heard that matches from Republicans in the legislature and the governor has been this idea of butting into local budgets. And so that's where I have some concern.
And I believe that county governments and city governments alike would take exception to some of what's been said and would really like to come to the table and explain to the governor how tough their budgets are this spring, how tough the school board budgets are, how tough the city budgets are, how tough the county budgets are, and explain what they need. And I've heard in some meetings that I sat in on, county supervisors really concerned with the large amount of money that's sitting in reserves here in Des Moines while they are strapped to be able to pay for roads and bridges and emergency services and public safety.
The governor talked about funding for disaster relief and some programs for rebuilding. What do you think of those, and is there more you think?
I think it was great that she mentioned that President Biden gave presidential declarations 3 times in the state of Iowa. It shows how the federal government and state government can work together in a time of crisis. We're always thrilled to hear that there's work being done to help with disasters as they approach. I think it's great to have a farmer army. We shouldn't just rely on our neighbors and friends. We can work together with local government, state government, and the federal government to actually bring relief in those circumstances. I'd love to see more that we can do to actually prevent some of those disasters as well.
And we've seen over the past years, whether it's the derecho several years ago or the flooding in northwest Iowa this year, how effectively both the federal and state government work together, as well as local communities can be to help fellow neighbors.
If I could add the idea that one of the things that I was disappointed not to hear from the governor was the idea of how we're going to work together to address rising insurance costs because of those climate crises that we've seen. People are sitting down to close on their home and finding that their insurance rate has doubled since they got their estimate. That's because of these disasters. What are we doing to help families address that really quickly rising insurance bill that they're seeing? I don't know what that solution is, but I would look to the governor to help us figure that out because that's what constituents are asking of us.
I ask you about Minnesota and the Minnesota-Iowa border.
Yes.
Whether it should extend north.
Where did that come from?
Senator Mike Booslow is proposing a bill to annex the 9 southern counties of Minnesota.
I'm sure that Leader Weiner will comment on business in the Senate, but what I would say is we have serious problems in this state. We have real families who are struggling with their bills and their budgets, and it seems to me that this is not a realistic approach, and it's one to seek headlines, and frankly, it's offensive to the people who are trying to pay their bills.
We have 99 counties in Iowa. We have enough to do.
Thanks, all.
Thanks, everybody.